Good afternoon and welcome to the Celtic Way, Celtic v Livingston line-up reaction. I'm Tony Haggerty at Haggerty10 on the X of the Twitter handle, and I'm joined by Ryan McGinley at the Ryan McGinley on the X or Twitter handle. As you can see the graphic, there's the team for today. Ryan, I think you got 11 by virtue of the fact that you weren't brave enough to pick Frame and you've picked Taylor. Isn't that right? What we both...
Yeah, neither was Rodgers though. So, I'm not going to argue with the manager. 11 out of 11, but we'll probably get into talking about the team and individual players that have managed to get back into the starting 11, which is really good. But yeah, I'm happy enough with that team.
Yeah, we both thought Bernardo would start, and sure enough, Bernardo has given his opportunity today. Paulo Bernardo in the midfield alongside McGregor and O'Reilly. Happy with that, Ryan?
Yeah, I think Bernardo is deserving of a start, to be honest. It's been a weird one because he's played Champions League games. He's played a lot of minutes in the Champions League, but hardly any in the Scottish Premiership. It's quite weird as to why that is. Yeah. I don't know if there's a clause in his loan deal that says that he has to play a certain amount of Champions League games. I don't know exactly. But it's good to see him in the starting lineup today. I think he's a better option than David Turnbull at this point in time in terms of what he gives you. He's running off the ball. Maybe his technical ability is not as good as Turnbull in dead ball situations or in striking positions. But I think Bernardo's good at motoring about the pitch, and he could be the player that Celtic need today to unlock things. And Turnbull's on the bench if required, but I want to see Bernardo really stake his claim. You know, he's got the yellow jersey, as you say.
Yes.
He'll be hoping that in 2 games' time he will continue to have that yellow jersey against Rangers on the 30th. So it's up to him to really stake his claim, make sure he stays in that team, and you know, just go for it. You've got your chance now. Just grasp it.
Yeah, obviously Iwata still not fit enough to resume. Ryan, he wasn't asked about that yesterday, but we took it as read that if there was no news then he was still injured, and it seems to be the case.
Yeah, I'm disappointed with that, to be honest. I wasn't expecting him to be in the starting 11 or the bench just due to the fact that there was no mention of him whatsoever.
Yeah.
But I was thinking that he was getting into the swing of things at Celtic. You know, he'd started a couple of games. He looked as if he was getting back into the swing of things, especially under a Brendan Rodgers side. I know that Ange Postecoglou quite liked him in the second half of his second season when he came to the club. I just think he's such a handy utility player to have. So the fact that he's injured and he doesn't have really any momentum going into these next couple of games, the fact that he's injured is quite disappointing. It also means that Brendan Rodgers' hands are tied behind his back when it comes to the midfield. There's a real lack of options. Odin Thiago home, I know you were tempted to put him in your starting lineup, but Brendan Rodgers yesterday said that he was just back in training after being ill for the past few weeks. That would have been a good sub to make. It would have been good to have seen him on the bench, but as far as I'm aware, he hasn't made it. So there's Kwon on the bench. You know, Kwon makes a second bench appearance in as many weeks. But that midfield, I think that's about as strong as it can get at this moment in time. But you know, I know we'll probably get onto it. That is one of the weakest benches I've seen Celtic field or name in a long time.
Yeah, we will get onto it. We'll just talk about the players that are actually playing. Obviously, Maeda first. He makes his first start back from injury. Good to see him. Palmer on the other flank, and here's hoping that Kyogo, we've spoken about it, can get amongst the goals again. Ryan, that's what we're hoping for today, isn't it?
Yeah, preferably 2 or 3 today, to be honest. I need to get back in the swing of things. You know, it's very much all to play for when it comes to that top goal scoring position. I think it's Abdallah Sima of Rangers that's number 1 in the goal scoring charts at the moment. Kyogo could easily catch up with him if he gets his act together and starts putting the ball in the back of the net. But in order to do that, he needs service from the likes of Palmer, from the likes of Maeda, O'Reilly, Bernardo as well. If there's a delivery there to be made, then get it to your striker and get him back amongst the goals. So important that Celtic get him fit and firing for this game on the 30th. I know there's still today's game and Tuesday's game as well. It's so important on the 30th that we get a fit and firing Kyogo in that game, because he's going to be so important in terms of putting chances away. I just want to see him back in and amongst the goals, because a Kyogo goal makes everybody happy. I think
yes.
It's you can see the joy that's on his face, you see the joy in the supporters' faces and everybody involved with the club. I just want to see him back smiling again. It was so nice to see that video. I don't know if you've seen it yesterday, he was visiting the primary school.
Yeah.
It was on Celtic's YouTube channel. The amount of joy that he brought those children yesterday was absolutely phenomenal. I don't know if it was yesterday, it might have been the day before, but it was put out yesterday. I want to see that being reciprocated by Kyogo. I want to see Kyogo making himself happy by scoring goals this afternoon.
Yep.
Because if that's the case, then Celtic will be in a pretty good place.
I want a statement one and a performance today, Ryan. I want both. And I've been a bit greedy there. Most people just take the win, but I want to win with a bit of style. Lots of comments going in, Ryan, so I'll just read a few of them that I've starred, all right. Mm-hmm. Over 200 people joining us on the live stream, so that's excellent. Charlie McLernan, a bit like myself, Charlie, I was hoping to see Frame as well. But who are we to argue with the manager, as Ryan said at the top of the programme. Smell the glove, that bench looks a terribly sad state of affairs. It most certainly does. It's pretty uninspiring, that bench. Joe Hume Music saying on paper that should be enough service for Kyogo to get in the score sheet and restore some confidence. That's what we're all hoping for. Ryan's just touched upon that there. Hazel Finn, really hope Bernardo does well today. He's still to convince her, but she's a big Awata fan, no. And Brown Warrior, how we doing? Afternoon, Brown Warrior. I'm hoping we see more tempo from the off. Brendan needs to up the tempo and get the side in the front foot. This possession is King Model's killing our tempo. And
I think that's why Bernardo's in the team today.
Yes.
To speed it up a bit in the midfield, because I think he's been a bit of a scapegoat, to be honest with you. I've got to say that. The Atletico Madrid game away from home was such a difficult night for the club. Everybody struggled in that game. It seems a lot of people have written off Paulo Bernardo winning the reverse fixture. He was one of Celtic's busiest defenders, even though he's a midfielder on the night. Remember, 44 pressures he got in the game, which was quite an impressive total. I'm sure he actually got round about the same numbers in the away game as well. So even if he isn't doing much on the ball, you're guaranteed a shift of him off the ball. Same could be said for Maeda. That's probably why those two players have been brought in to up the tempo today.
Yeah, he got a big chance today, Bernardo, so we're hoping that he passes that test with flying colours. Doc Boy 67, bench is honking, but Celtic need a win and a performance. That's exactly what I'm saying. And Hazel Finn, afternoon Hazel, how you doing? The bench is uninspiring though. Why no academy players? Yep. John Mullane.
Ralston and Welsh.
Pretty
I know they're older, but they're still academy players. They've graduated from there.
Brown Warrior saying, get the shackles off Callum McGregor and keep Kyogo at the pointy end. You know my thoughts on that. I bang on about it all the time. Uncle Nobby Steamboat, still one of the best names on here in the chat. Howdy troops, 3 points today, nothing less. And Sons of Scotland saying a good performance today, nothing else will do. 3 points with a good show, and that's exactly my sentiment. And you and Boy Martin being a bit more melodramatic. He's saying it's a must-win game. If Celtic don't win it, then they can kiss goodbye to the title.
I agree with that.
Yeah, you agree with that, Ryan?
Absolutely. You cannot drop points in 3 consecutive games and expect to be winning leagues. That's just not good enough. Today's got to be, I've got to say, it's got to be a good win and a good performance, and I mean that by goals as well. It's time to put goals back. It's time to get the shooting boots back on. I want Celtic to score 4 or 5 today. I think they will. I'm quite confident that we'll see a big reaction from the team today. They've had a week to stomach that Hearts result. That will have hurt them. Yeah. So they've had the 7 days. It will be 7 days exactly since they last took to the field. I want to see an angry performance today from Celtic. I want to see a team that were embarrassed by what happened last week go out there and have a siege mentality and just really put some more pressure on Livingston, because Livingston at the moment are really, really struggling under David Martindale. Yeah. It's up to Celtic to compound that misery, basically.
Yeah, I did say I want a statement win and I want a statement performance, and I want Celtic to feel good about themselves. And Ewan, that was Ewan's comment there that we flashed up. Hazel Finn saying it's important that Celtic off to a quick start. That would make all the difference. It usually does for Celtic. And Doc Boy 67, if Celtic can't beat Livingston, it's time to give it up. I think there's a lot of people saying that as well. You and Boy Martin saying, hopefully the return of the Green Brigade will get the place buzzing and help the team win. Smell the glove, it's a must win today. Yep, absolutely. Most people in the same boat saying the same things, that Celtic, have to win today, Ryan, basically. They
do.
Nothing else will do.
They have to win. I think that's the bare minimum today, is to win. I also want to see Celtic put on a good performance, because the performances have just not been there. They've been there in spurts, I would say. Like the first half against Hibs was really good, and then they dropped off in the second half. Probably compounded by the fact that Carter Vickers went off, and he is the safety net in that team. When you take him off the park, then I think the team gets nervous as a result, and that might be something to look at in the future. I think he's just he's like an air of security
Yes.
in this team, and he allows players to express themselves. So when he was taken off, and there's clearly not the same confidence in Nat Phillips, who isn't on the bench today. Also, for that matter, Lagerbielke and Nawrowski are both not on the bench either. So that mystery continues. You wonder if Nawrowski is going to be on the same boat as Lagerbielke when it comes to potentially getting moved on in January. We will wait and see on that. But it's Welsh that's been preferred today in that sort of emergency centre back option on the bench. So yeah, I mean, would you say that that's not been said already about the defenders that aren't making the squad and the first team squad on the bench? It's a very, very weird situation, isn't it? Because when Celtic sign players, you just expect when Celtic to sign players they'll be challenging for a spot, but they're not even making the bench. It's concerning to me. It's concerning.
Yeah. Sean Curran, the performance can come next Saturday. He'll take 1-0 today, he's saying. And Matthew Blair saying
1-0 is still not a good result.
No. So it's a loud stadium from minute 1 to 90 for the next few games. So, yeah, that will make a difference today. I hope and I think, Ryan, that the Green Brigade returning, won't it?
That's probably one of the main reasons I'm looking forward to going to today's game is the fact that the Green Brigade are back. I know they had their curtail today. Hopefully that went well. But I'm looking forward to seeing them back in the stadium. I'm glad that the two sides, both the Green Brigade side and the Celtic board side, have came together. They've sorted it out. They've hashed it out, and now everybody can be singing from that same hymn sheet. So important that there's a harmonious atmosphere in the club today. And going forward, because everybody wants the same thing at the end of the day. They might go about it in different ways. They might have different opinions on other issues. Everybody wants the same thing, and that's Celtic doing well. The Green Brigade want that just as much as the board, and the board just want that just as much as the Green Brigade. So I'm glad that everybody's back on the same hymn sheet, or your hopes on the same hymn sheet now, and they can all back the team in this big game against Livingston. It is a big game. That's the thing. It's such a weird one because you would expect maybe a Celtic Livingston game. Oh, it's a home game for Celtic. Celtic should win. You can't take anything for granted today due to the fact that Celtic have dropped points in their last two games. They've been beat twice in the past 3 games. They had the Feyenoord game in between, but that was effectively a dead rubber, or so you call it. It was a good result on the night, but the domestic results haven't been there. Performances haven't been there either. It's up to Celtic to make those wrongs right and get back into that good vein of form that they had before this blip.
Smell the glove saying, although Ryan, he would take 4 1-0 wins in the next 4 games. I think everybody would take that, but listen, if they could guarantee that, that's fine. I'll take that right now. But now I want a wee bit of style and a bit of pizzazz today, a bit of panache, Ryan, about Celtic. But I want to see a bit of a swagger and a swashbuckle and knock in a few goals. As I said, I want to see a wee bit of a statement. I want them to show me that they did have those talks that I was talking about earlier in the week on the podcast, that they've had that kind of clear the air, cards on the table. I want that kind of reaction from the team today. I think the crowd getting behind them will certainly help. And you'll be there to let us know, and no doubt you'll probably write about the atmosphere at some point, Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that will be one of the instant analysis points that I do, because, being at the game, it's going to make a big difference from the library atmosphere that's been the past few months. Because I don't think that's controversial to say that. It has been like a library atmosphere. The crowds down south, I know a lot of Scottish fans slag the atmospheres down south in the Premier League. Celtic was no different for the past couple of months. It was just the same. It was so it was such a saturated crowd. It just wasn't good at all. And the fact that Celtic have got maybe the heartbeat of the atmosphere back will mean that everybody will start joining in and start getting more involved with the singing and the chanting. I'm just glad to see the Green Brigade back. I know there's pros and cons to everything. There's pros and cons with absolutely everything in the world, but I'm just so glad that the Green Brigade are back and they'll be there to make the noise today. I think it's big in games like this where otherwise there wouldn't be much of an atmosphere in this sort of game. I know some games take care of themselves, Rangers being one of them in the 30th, but there'll be that atmosphere today that I think will get Celtic over the line, and I think Celtic will be wanting to put on a show for those fans that have came back or that have been allowed back in.
Matthew Blair saying, let's make some noise for the boys. It's said before every home game, so he wants the fans to take that seriously today, because we are there for them as much as they're there for us. Here. Give it big licks, Ryan, then. All right, when you're there. But yeah, it will be a factor today. I would conjecture that hopefully the players can feed off that and get a result. And through no fault of their own, Ryan, Celtic have made this a massive game, haven't they? Basically through dropping points in their last two matches, losing back-to-back games. So that's how it's become a game of such magnitude.
Yeah, and I'm glad that this game is still on, because I was just seeing my phone there. The Dundee-Aberdeen game has been called off due to the weather. So I'm glad that the game is still going.
Ross County Hibernian bit of dust earlier this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. That would have been a killer for some of the fans that were driving up or travelling up to Dingwall, only to find out that the game was cancelled or abandoned or postponed. That's what I was looking for. That'll be an interesting one going into Tuesday, because Dundee won't have a game today, so they'll be maybe a wee bit more rested for the game against Celtic on Tuesday at Dens Park. They'll need to be a quick turnaround, because I'm sure it's Dens Park that they were playing at today against Aberdeen. So
it was.
It'll need to be a quick turnaround over the festive days, to a wee bit of overtime potentially to get that stadium in good order for the Celtic game on Boxing Day. It is a big game today, just going back to your point. It is self-inflicted because of the results that Celtic have had in recent weeks. But, they've got to control the controllables, as we say. Win the game comfortably, play with an expressive style of football. I just want to see a style of play. That was the thing that I was talking about yesterday. I want to see a style of play, a distinguishable style of play under Brendan Rodgers. We all remember how good his team was in his first season. When he joined the club in 2016-17, the style of football was phenomenal. A lot of that was helped due in part to the fact that Ronnie Dyler had them on good diets and had them quite decent structurally. The results obviously didn't go in his favour in a lot of the games, but Dyler left them in a good place, and Brendan Rodgers expanded upon that. And I want to see Brendan Rodgers expand on what Ange Postecoglou made at the club, not to mention his name again. I know we seem to always mention his name, but the job that he done at Celtic was an incredible one, and I want to see Brendan Rodgers just expand on that and improve on it, put his own style. It's all about finding that hybrid between the best part of Ange Postecoglou's game and Brendan Rodgers' style that will work with the team. If he can get those two mixed together, then I think Celtic will be in a pretty good place. But it all starts today. They need to get a win. They need to get a good performance today, and they need to get Kyogo back in the score sheet.
Yes. San Fran Celtic say young frame should have started bench at a minimum. My thoughts exactly. And then John comes in and says, Tony, regardless if we win, it's far too early to believe players and manager have had clear their talks. Maybe we can conclude that after a few consecutive wins. Too many false dawns so far. I'm not saying it as gospel or fact. I just think reading between the lines and what Liam Scale says and what Brendan Rodgers said yesterday, that's certainly happened this week. They've had a week to brood over the Hearts game. They will have had their cards on the table, clear their chat, and as Hamish said on Monday or Tuesday, whatever day it was, it'll be noticeable the way they come out the traps today. That was my thought process behind that. Things will have been said, John. I don't think they'll just have let the status quo and just accept that. Brendan was talking about it yesterday, about how they've spoken about it during the week, about how things weren't good enough. So I said it before Brendan and Liam Scale spoke. That's the way football works. These things happen. Players and managers have clearly their talks and cards on the table and open and frank and honest discussions, especially when you lose 2 in the bounce at Celtic, because it's a very rare occurrence in the league. So nothing will convince me otherwise that they didn't have those kind of talks this week in that Celtic dressing room. And we'll find a lot more about that today, Ryan, as I say, to see how they start the game and come out the traps. Fair enough, John, you can disagree. I flicked your comment up for that very reason. You're allowed to have your opinion on that. But yeah, that's the way I see it. And a lot will tell me what has been said in the first 20 minutes of this game today, I think.
Yeah. it's going to be so important. You know, Celtic are one of these teams that you know what Celtic you're going to get pretty early on. I would say if they're firing on all cylinders, then you'll certainly know about it because they'll put goals in the score sheet, or they'll put in they'll make gilt-edged chances early doors. The problem I think for Celtic in a lot of games this season is that they have started games well, but they don't immediately get that breakthrough, and then they go back on themselves and become a bit lethargic, and then there's maybe that suggestion that they're maybe expecting it to happen rather than grafting and making sure it happens through their own work. If Celtic start well today, now you've got to frighten Livingston today. You've got to make it.
You've got to compound their misery, Ryan. Their miserable run that they're on. You've just got to keep compounding that, and they've been struggling. So you've got to make it another 90 minutes of struggle for Livingston.
Absolutely.
End of. Yeah. And they're bereft of confidence. Celtic are shorn of confidence, but you have to go out and make life difficult for Livingston. We don't really care about them. It's all about what Celtic do today. My concern and your concern first and foremost is how Celtic react to losing back-to-back league games. They have to show us something today, or alarm bells will certainly start ringing, won't they? And ringing very loudly.
I think they're already ringing. It's just the ringing needs to stop. They need to find a way to silence those alarm bells that have been ringing for the past 2 or so weeks. I'm just going to bring up a wee comment here where it's talking about, Martin says, why isn't the amount of injuries being discussed? I think it's just because we're speaking about the players that are available. As much as we want to talk about players that are injured, everybody knows I love Rio Tati. I love watching Rio Tati play. I wish he was in this team, but he's not available. Celtic have got to just go with what they've got at the moment. That Celtic are not the only side that are struggling with a lot of injuries. There seems to be a build-up over the past couple of years with a lot of teams with muscle injuries, just due to the amount of games that footballers are playing in a season, the amount of competitions that are playing, the amount of travel that goes in between. That might be something for the authorities to look upon. I think there needs to be maybe less international breaks would be a good thing, and an actual rest period for teams. Rather than having international breaks, just have a break in which players aren't overexerting themselves. There just seems to be a lot of injuries, a lot of muscle injuries, and that's probably down to wear and tear of playing so many games. It doesn't help that, I think that football is still feeling the after effects of the start of COVID, and then the World Cup being in Qatar in the winter. And then there's other international tournaments. It seems like there's an international tournament every single year now, just due to the build-up or the build-up nature of all these international tournaments coming at the same time, or maybe some of them have been cancelled and then brought forward again. I just think there needs to be a happy medium between the amount of football played, the amount of rest for players, because you're starting to see players really get the wear and tear with all these physical injuries.
And I think, to be fair, we have covered the injuries as they've came along. We've spoken about it a lot and why. So, it's not something that we shy away from. But, once a player's injured and they're not playing, they can't contribute to the team. So, we tend to focus on the here and now. And maybe there is a bigger question is how these players are picking up injuries. And I think the greater question the commenter was asking was about the sports science of it all, about wear and tear in terms of muscle injuries and stuff. So that's maybe something that we can have a look at some point further down the line. But yeah, I agree there. But you canvass any manager, they will tell you that it's an overcrowded fixture schedule, isn't it? And there's too many tournaments, and there's players going on long haul flights all over the world to represent their countries. And as you say, there seems to be all sorts of tournaments. And whenever you do get a break, you're competing in something, aren't you? The players are getting a break in January, but there's a healthy contingent from Celtic going to compete in the Asian Cup. But everybody's known that's been penciled in for long and weary, isn't it? So that's not something that's coming on your blind side, but there is an argument for FIFA and UEFA to start looking at the football calendar and factor in, real respite and rest for players, because it's happening too often now, isn't it, for players?
Yeah, and it's not just men's football as well. It happens a lot in women's football. Some of the statistics regarding ACL injuries being far more prominent in the women's game is absolutely incredible. I don't know how many times more, but it was a large number of more injuries. Not to get too topical. I know we're talking about the pre-match, but there's just a lot of injuries going about in football. Seems to be more than ever before. Either that, or I'm paying more attention to it. But either one of those, it just seems as if there's a lot more muscle injuries. You hear about hamstrings going all the time, groins, calf injuries as well. It is a wear and tear game. I get that. You play for 90 minutes. It's a minor miracle that Cal McGregor hasn't been injured that much in his career, given the amount of game time he's had. You'd think he'd be more susceptible to injuries due to the fact that he doesn't really get a rest, both for his country and his club. But I just think it's something that the authorities need to look into, because there's too much football. As much as it sounds a bit blasphemic to say that, there is too much football for some of these players, and they need a break every once in a while.
It's supposed to be the most wonderful time of the year, Ryan, yet football never stops.
And football gets marketed as that, and the Boxing Day football gets made out to be this massive thing, and it is a massive thing because there's so much football going on at the one time. I think there needs to be more onus on these winter breaks. I think Germany and I think Holland do it as well. They both do it the right way. They just have a complete shutdown for a few weeks. I think the product doesn't hurt as a result of that. It probably benefits the players in the long term.
But then you're going to shut down and people would be moaning, mostly you and
people moan anyway.
about having no fix of football after about 4 or 5 days. You'd be climbing the walls. So where's the happy medium?
I know, absolutely.
Yeah, too much football. All we hear is moaning when an international week comes round in the winter break. I've just said that. Yeah, indeed. Yeah, correct. But there's no such thing as too much football, in my humble opinion, for what it's worth. But there you go. It's one of those, isn't it? But I think it's something, certainly in terms of players being injured and the muscle fatigue and injuries like that maybe it could be looked at. But yeah, getting back to today, Ryan, what's your prediction for today? Over 300 people joining us, guys. That's magic. Thanks very much. Want to throw your predictions up in the comment section. We'll read a few of them out. But Ryan, what do you think?
I think Celtic will get back to winning ways. I'm going to go, but my confidence has been shot in these past couple of weeks. So I'm going to be a wee bit more conservative with a small C in my prediction. I'm going to go for 3-0.
3-0. Dennis Jameson saying 2-0. Kyogo and Matt O'Reilly to score. John Mulaney.
2 from Kyogo, 1 from O'Reilly. There you go. There's my full prediction. John
Mulaney 7-0 Celtic. That's very optimistic. Smell the Glove says 3-1. Celt88 says 4-1. I'll go a conservative 2-0 as well. So there we go. Tony the Tim saying he would take a 1-0 win, just want some sort of Celtic way display. AR saying I'll take 1-0 at this rate. You cannot predict this team. Claire Best saying a bit nervous today in main stand, but she's optimistic. 4-0. Brown Warrior saying 3-0 by half time. There you go. But most of them are saying Celtic will win. Paul McLean, sorry, but 0-1 he's predicting. So
wow.
There you go. And so we shall see what happens there. And he's come back in and saying he's a realist, because I think he was being accused of supporting another team. So Matthew Blair saying 5-2. Think Celtic will get a few in, but fortunately they're also conceding and letting in more goals. So there you go. So yeah, well, so there you go. It's most people predicting a Celtic win. Ryan, here's hoping that's what happens. You can't see my shirt, Ryan, but it's got like a happy face on it there. That's what I want the Celtic supporters to be at full time. I want them to be happy. I want a bit of Christmas cheer, as I said yesterday. Christmas cheers, not Christmas jeers. That's what we want. We want Kyogo back in the saddle, scoring. 5-0 to the boys, says Doc Boy. Ross Murphy saying 5-0. It's only Livy, he says. Brown Warrior saying he's an optimist, but Brendan is testing his patience. So there you go. So we shall see what happens. You're heading up there right now, Ryan, aren't you? Get yourself into the stadium, and we'll be back on after, or as soon as after the game, once the work's done, the Q&As and all that kind of stuff. So tune in for the instant analysis. We'll have some Q&As up as well, and then Ryan and myself will go live and we'll do the post-match reaction and briefing to hopefully, 3 points for Celtic, Ryan? They desperately
Fingers crossed.
them, yeah.
Yep, back to winning ways. Got to be, nothing else will suffice today. So yeah, just hoping for that.
Brown Warrior saying, good luck today, Ryan. Hope you leave with a festive cheer.
Thank you.
5-0 Celtic hat-trick for Santa and no booing. Martin saying 3-0 statement needed by the players indeed. Guys, as I always say, result dependent. We shall reconvene. We'll be back at full time. Hopefully you can join us. Over 300 people joining us on the live stream. So that's incredible numbers, guys. Thank you for that. Really appreciate it. And if you want to hit that subscribe button, please do. It costs you £4 for 4 months of access to everything that we do on the website, or £18 for a yearly subscription. And if you hit that button, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. That's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Ryan, thank you very much. I shall see you anon. All right, sir. And enjoy the game.
Thank you very much, guys. Enjoy, everybody.